Hello and welcome. You're listening to
Hurry! The movie is starting podcast.
Welcome back. It has been a little minute. Not gonna lie, I went on vacation, and unlike last year, I was like, this year on vacation, I'm gonna actually vacate. Shun. I'm gonna relax. I put a pause on my Etsy store and everything. I didn't want to think about work at all. I got a couple Etsy emails, but I was like, I set up an automatic message for those. But you didn't come here for that. You came here to listen to this spoiler review of the horror movie Weapons by Zack Creggers. So again, this is going to be a spoiler review. So if you have not seen the movie, I highly recommend you go watch it. It is a good time. It is a very enjoyable experience. And it's a solid horror movie. I think it's going to contend with Sinners as one of the top horror movies of the year. But we'll see how it ends at the end of the year. So if you haven't already checked it out, I finally started my new segment, 5 Stars. I released it before I went on vacation. So I got 2 episodes out in like 1 week. Not too shabby at all. But yeah, I was able to talk to Zach about Interstellar and some other cool movies. And it was a cool discussion. Like this is what it's all about. Just talking about movies, seeing different perspectives, just understanding someone's thought process, and lots of beautiful people in this world. So it's nice to just hear people's different perspectives and then learn some things about people, and even just learn things about the movie that you didn't know going into it. So it's just what it's all about. We're working on getting the second guest in, so stay tuned on episode number 2. So diving right into my spoiler review, I feel like Zack Creggers was trying to tell a story with different elements that would intertwine throughout, just to show us like a new perspective and then learn each character. Because this is like a multi-narrative story. So seeing that in a horror movie, I really enjoyed. And even though I didn't think the movie was as scary as I thought it was going to be, don't worry, I thought the same thing about Sinners. I still enjoyed it. Like the story is so captivating, and just like seeing different perspectives, like every new scene is pretty cool in my opinion. And it does well in horror because you just see some stuff in the background, and then it makes you start to focus on the background a little bit more, and you see more things. So shout out to Zack Creggers for doing it in this style. I think that was a great choice. It kind of, honestly, it feels like an anthology movie, but it's more just multi-narrative because each like new scene is following a new person around, and then eventually we get to the climax of what's going on. Because as you've seen the trailer, there's 17 kids missing from a classroom, and they just disappeared. Nobody knows what, nobody knows how. That's why you gotta watch this movie. You gotta go watch the movie to see what's going on with these kids, see what happens, because that's part of the ride. Everyone's trying to figure out what's going on with these kids, even us, and we can like understand the frustration of the parents, but at the same time then we also feel for the teacher who clearly has no idea what's going on, but she's slowly overstepping boundaries to figure it out, which is another ethical question. Like if you're overstepping boundaries for like a good reason of like in this instance saving a bunch of kids' lives, that's you have to do that, right? Yeah, that's okay. That's not as hard of a question as I thought initially. And at like just a random comparison with this movie, I was thinking of the movie Memento, where we're taken on a journey and we're wondering what the heck is going on. We're trying to figure it out. We're just trying to slide through this journey, and it just slowly unravels, and we learn bits and bits and bits and bits, and then eventually it all just snaps and we figure it all out at the end. But just great job by Zack Creggers to just keep us engaged. And there was a couple like, ooh, that was scary kind of scenes, but this doesn't really feel like a horror movie. It feels more so like a mystery suspense drama. But also tension is built with this teacher that you feel like has nothing to do with the disappearing of these children, but the movie tries to bring her down. Like the way it's portraying Julia Garner's character, it kind of seems like you want to side with the parents and just aggressively dislike this woman because you feel like she has something to do with it, because clearly she's done some shady things in the past, and then she does another shady thing with an ex-lover in this movie. So I feel like the movie does a great job of trying to get you to root against her in moments as well. So it's a nice little duality there. And I just thought the way they did that slightly and not like just pushing it in your face just adds to the mystery of it all. Also, another thing I constantly kept seeing throughout the movie was Parasite and Witch. Witch because her car gets painted Witch because they think she's in charge, like she is the reason for their children missing. And Parasite, at school, there's one class that's learning about Parasite, and you see it written on the board. But then there's also like an article about parasites or something later on. And then as we meet the villain towards the end of the movie, we realize that she's the parasite. She is the parasite of this movie. She is using these hosts to gain strength and get stronger and stronger, and eventually collect all 5 Infinity Stones before she snaps us all away. Again, this is spoiler alert, so this is the biggest spoiler of the movie because this is the movie. So if you haven't seen the movie, just stop now. Just go watch it. Just go watch it. I don't want to spoil this for you, but I am going to spoil it in 3, 2, 1. Gladys is the great grandmother, I believe, and you just see her and you just immediately think Joker because of her makeup is all just... It's very unsettling. And she's this old lady that can barely move, but by the end of the movie, she's like running full speed. Which I thought they did a great job of not showing this character at all during any of the trailers. I can assume now that newer trailers are going to come out showing bits and pieces of her, so people will be like, whoa, there's like some like crazy looking Joker character in this movie. So that's probably going to happen, but we'll see. So yeah, Gladys is the parasite of Alex's home. She just benefits from Alex doing all her will as she's slowly getting more and more of these, I'm going to call them zombies because essentially they're like brain controlled zombies, to accomplish whatever her sinister task is. And I had a discussion with some friends at work, and I think we've all come to the agreement that she's slowly getting more youthful, because in the beginning she's barely like able to like walk. Even when she comes into the principal's office, she seems like she's very slow unless she's playing it up. But by the end of the movie, she's running full speed. You can tell she ain't no frail old lady as she's been showing. So was that just her manipulation, or is that her getting stronger? I think we can assume that it's her like draining her hosts to become stronger. So, but overall, I feel like Zack Creggers' main narrative of this movie is that of children missing and how it can create a community and like make it slowly begin to unravel and fall apart, because you have the parents that are essentially like almost on the brink of mobbing against this innocent teacher, but then you got this innocent teacher doing some stupid stuff that makes her even seem even more sus, and it's just this tension between that. And then you got this Gladys character sending out zombies to do her will and potentially control more people. We got a lot of stuff going on, but you know, they made it work. Also, little fun fact for you here. I don't know if you've seen the movie Miss March, but in Miss March, Zack Creggers is one of the lead actors with his friend Trevor Moore. And unfortunately, Trevor Moore passed away at a very young age, 41, due to an accident, a freak accident. I would say it was a freak accident. It's a freak accident. And that happened in, I believe, 2021. And Creggers was having trouble being able to cope with that, because apparently they met it going like to school for filmmaking, and they hit it off immediately. Then they came and starred in Miss March, and then they like did things together in movies. So when he lost him suddenly out of nowhere, 41 years old, he was feeling an immense sense of grief, and he started writing. And he writes 17 kids go missing, nobody knows what happened, and he put a question mark. And that set him into this script, and it's crazy because he was like trying to overcome the grief of losing a best friend, and he was able to produce this movie, which, another fun fact for you, was in a bidding war, and Jordan Peele was one of the bidders. At the end of the day, he lost, and he got so upset he fired his like manager because he wanted this movie. And apparently, since he didn't get weapons, now he's coming out with him, which that's another movie I think is going to be really good. I feel like we have not seen a good sports horror movie before, and if this is it, bro, this is going to light up the world. I think this could be a really good movie, honestly. But anyways, it's wild to see like the things that have created this movie, because on paper you just go watch the movie, you're like, oh yeah, that was cool, that was a good movie, it wasn't as scary as I thought, but it was still good. And then at the end of the day, you go home and start researching it more, and you find more about the director and just how this meant to him. It just makes it much more satisfying, in my opinion. So Creggers used his real-life loss of his best friend, Trevor Moore, to fuel a movie where 17 kids go missing in an unexplained way, and leaves the town feeling that same feeling of loss that Creggers did when Trevor Moore passed away. So you can tell his heart and soul went into this movie, and it just makes it feel a little bit deeper than initially my review of it. Also, I think this movie touches on the brutality of humans, because when when Gladys takes control of Marcus, he just starts like berating his husband and essentially just kills him with his head. And that just, it's so brutal to see. And then from that, then we see Marcus's eyes bulging out, in which, if you are a fan of that look, you can get a custom card made from that movie saying, well, it has Marcus in the front with his eyes bulging out, and it says, "Your love makes me go crazy." If you want to order that card, I'll have the link in the description, because, if I'm watching movies, I'm recording a podcast, I might as well do some movie cards, And I thought this one was hilarious, because just seeing Benedict Wong with his eyes like that, I could not stop laughing. I thought it was hilarious. But oh yeah, another fun fact for you. Do you know why they run like Naruto style with their arms flailing out to the side? Because there was a famous photo with an Indonesian kid like burning from napalm, and she had her arms out to the side. So in order to like recapture that image in his movie, Creggers decided that's the way he wanted his characters to be, running with their arms flailing out to the side, just like that little 7-year-old kid that was unfortunately burning from napalm from a airstrike. And throughout this movie, tension boils over as the families that continue to suffer their loss struggle to come to terms and to move on. Specifically, Thanos' character, he does not. I mean, but would you? If your kid went missing, would you just roll over? I definitely wouldn't. I would probably be like Josh Brolin's character and hunt, trying to find a little out more every day. Yeah, eventually you have to move on, but I'm still going to keep trying. I think you have to. And it's crazy how Creggers was able to turn his own loss and grief into a multi-narrative story that shows how loss and the unexplained that occurred. Because remember, Trevor Moore fell from his balcony and hit his head and died. That's why you're in the safety of your own home. No one's coming out to get you, and you die by a freak accident. That sucks. Anyway, it explains that the unexplained that occur in this world can bring us down to our primitive and uncontrollable forms, and I think that's the message that Creggers did a great job portraying in this movie. Some ways more little than others. But the feeling of loss can be a heavy burden that can weigh us down if we allow it, because you remember, it's our mind we control more than we give ourselves credit for. Sometimes we're having a bad day because in our mind we're thinking like, oh, today sucks, to this, that. We're giving it the power to then do that action. So just a little mind work sometimes. And this is the first time I'm actually understanding of this stuff, because I'm actually doing like a lot more work and trying to be more self-aware. But that's not what you're here for. You're here for, was it worth it? Was this movie worth it to me? While I was hoping for a little bit more horror, I was consumed with mystery, intrigue, and thoughts throughout. I was constantly on my toes. I was invested. I drank a little bit too much root beer, so I had to pee, and it was starting to sting a little bit, but I was not going to go to the bathroom and miss any key piece of evidence to this puzzle I was trying to put together. And the ending was just wild. I don't think anyone could have predicted that happen, because seeing these 17 kids run through glass and jump through windows trying to get this old lady and then catch her and then start tearing her apart. Oh, it was hilarious, yet so brutal to be like, oh, these kids are going to be scarred forever if they survive this. But the multi-narrative storytelling, I think, to me, was the most refreshing thing to see, as it helps you figure out piece by piece, and it does feel like a giant puzzle that you get to all try and put together at the same time. And then the foreshadowing, plain sight. I love when a movie subtly hides things throughout to like you to be able to find in the background, and it doesn't beat you over the head with bad exposition and them like spelling it out to you. If you were looking in the background, you saw Parasite a couple times, and then you see Witch sprinkled out in words and then in actions and whatnot. But my only complaint about this movie, my only one, was the movie was, and this is just me being subjective. The movie was marketed as horror, but it definitely felt more like a dark comedy mystery with a lot of thrills, tension, and drama along the way. There, like I said, there are horror elements, but the movie is outshined with funny moments, scenarios, and tension that feel palpable. It just, after leaving that movie, I just had so many questions, and then I had to come out and Google so much stuff, and that's why I have to write my stuff down first so I know it's my stuff. And I expected it to be the scariest movie of the year, but it wasn't. So I think leaving the movie, I was kind of more down on it. But as I started reading more stuff about it, as I started reading more of the fun facts of it, of the Zack Creggers like pouring his heart into this piece of paper that became this movie, it made it a lot more enjoyable. And then understanding the questions that I feel like weren't answered in the movie, was able to kind of put it together piece by piece and to get a general idea of what might have been the case in that movie. But I heard talk of a sequel. I hope not. I think this movie would be great standalone. I mean, I feel like they would want to do something with showing Gladys's backstory, but then we're just getting into like a witch movie, which Weapons wasn't marketed as a witch movie. It was just marketed as like a mystery that we're trying to figure out what's going on with these 17 kids. And I did see something a little dark online where someone was saying that in the beginning, the girl says, and they never came back, like foreshadowing that these kids are always going to just be docile and like hypnotized for the rest of their lives, which would suck because there's some like Josh Brolin, he was no longer hypnotized and he was fine. Is it a length of being under a spell for? I don't know, but I feel like that's one question that I didn't get the answer to. But overall, I thought it was a good movie. I give it an 8 out of 10. I thought it was going to be the scariest movie of the year, and it wasn't, but it was a good horror movie. I think if comparing to Sinners, I would have to say I still choose Sinners because I love From Dusk Till Dawn. It's one of my top 3 horror movies of all time, and that movie felt like an updated or like a more different, diverse version of that movie. So that's why I like Sinners a little bit more. So Sinners number 1, this one number 2. Him has the potential to become number 1. Not gonna lie, because I would love to see a good horror football movie. I feel like the closest we've gotten to horror football was Any Given Sunday, where the dude's eye pops out, and that I feel like that's the closest we've ever gotten. So just see what we can get with him, but it can also mess it up. I feel like if it doesn't really show sports and it's just like the becoming of this athlete just getting powers and not doing any like sporting at all and just getting like this power as like a gift, then I think that's gonna move. It's gonna suck that. But then I think the movie would probably suck a little bit more. But I think Jordan Peele's going to do a good job. He's been really good with his stuff. Even I know people didn't really like Nope, but I thought that was a solid movie. And then understanding the deeper meanings between everything and behind everything, and just understanding that eye contact is a major thing between us and animals alike. I think it was a better movie than people give it credit for. But that's going to be the end of this spoiler review of Weapons. Next episode is going to be a pregame for the movie Honey Don't, so stay tuned for that. And as always, all right, the movie's starting. Thanks for stopping by. God bless, and have a great week.